Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Seed Talk Series 2021. Bayer Seed Growth is presenting our Seed Growing 102 today. This is a joint presentation or a joint initiative partnership between the Saskatchewan seed growers, the Manitoba seed growers, and the Alberta seed growers. A couple things this morning on how you can ask questions. Everybody will be on mute during the presentations and the Q&A session. If there's an echo on your end, you have your phone and computer audio on. So if you have both on, then press pound and your participant ID number, followed by pound on your phone, and your computer audio will be disconnected. If you're having technical difficulties, text Jeff at 403-975-9981 or email him at jeff@colesag.com. This seminar is being recorded and it will be posted to our website sometime next week. There's two ways to ask a question. You can submit or type a question at any time during the session and it'll be relayed to the panelists for response. It can be live or typed. And if you want to ask your question directly, there's a raise hand button that you would press at the bottom of the page, or it might be the top of the page for some of you, and the host, that's us, we will unmute you. And then just remember that when we allow you to speak, you need to unmute your computer or phone. And you'll just press the microphone icon or *6, and then you would mute yourself again once you're done asking your question. The raise hand function should be in the bar, either at the bottom or the top. This is what it looks like. We will see that you raised your hand, and then we will lower it, or you can lower it once you're done. If you're on a phone, then you have to type in your participant ID if you haven't done that already, and you'll see the webinar controls at the bottom. Same thing, there'll be a lower raise hand function and a Q&A icon as well. So this morning, this is the agenda for this morning's session. We're going to start with a mentoring session. Alan Altwasser with Super Seed Inc. out of Yellowgrass, Saskatchewan, and Ward Oatway from Oatway Seed Farm in Clive, Alberta. The next session is What Your LSCI Wants You to Know. And we have Linnell Olson and Amelia Hamilton. And we're also very pleased that we have Samantha Pankratz, Shannon Wandler, and Josh Nimchuk, all from CFIA in the background. So if there's some other questions that relate to the topics that we have, they're available to answer some questions. And Brianna Schwinard from CSGA is also going to be on to be available to answer questions. Then we're going to have a presentation from Scott Barr. The Bayer Seed Growth is sponsoring this specific webinar, and we really thank them for their continued support. After that, there'll be a succession planning as a seed grower. Are you prepared? And that's by Gail Harris, and she'll also go over some of the changes to requirements for the plot grower accreditation. And at the end, I'm just going to do a quick demonstration of our interactive seed guide. So as I mentioned, the first thing we're going to start with this morning is the mentoring session. And first up is Alan Altwasser. As I said, he's from Yellowgrass, Saskatchewan. And I'll let you go there, Alan, if you want to share your screen.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Lori. Just so I'm clear, which are you seeing my screen with notes or without?
No, you've got it, what you want us to see.
Okay, great.
Yep.
I've got two screens going, so I just want to make clear I got the right one. Thanks, Lori. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan Altwasser. I run and operate an accredited seed establishment, bulk storage facility in southeast Saskatchewan near Yellowgrass. My family farms here. My brother and my dad take care of the farming end of the operation. I run the seed operation. I guess when I came back from university in '91, Dad had been growing seed for a number of years, and the old seed plant was wore out, so we needed to expand, and we expanded the seed operation, and then we added more of an ag retail side to it as well. So that's where I spend my time. I get out in the fall and run a combine, but most of the time I'm in the seed plant. The crop, just been bit of a comment about the crop mix in the area. There's quite a diverse crop mix. Durum, spring wheat, canola, flax, lentils, peas, barley, oats, chickpeas, and then a small amount of soybeans starting to come into the area. It's just not quite established yet. Varieties are getting better, but not quite working for us. But I see that increasing a little bit incrementally every year. I'm going to talk about maintaining seed purity in the seed plant. When I say that, I mean I struggled on how to approach this topic, because maintaining purity as a seed grower is a continuous operation or a continuous process, and it starts from planting right up to the shipping of the final product. So I decided to just sort of cut the time out from when it enters the plant to when it leaves. You know, I'm just going to concentrate sort of on that period. And I'll show the layout of our seed plant, flow the seed takes through the cleaning line, and along the way, how we clean out between seed lots, how we're sampling in process, and building a retained sample. And I realize when you start talking about seed plant layouts, everyone has a different opinion on how it needs to be or should be set up. But that being said, I'm going to concentrate on our setup. And our crop mix in the area is quite diverse, but what we actually process primarily is spring wheat, durum, flax. We do a small amount of lentils, and we have done peas in the past and caraway and some odd things, but those were, you know, primarily we're year to year, it's durum, spring wheat, and flax. So this is a snapshot of our, pardon me. I'm just going to bring up the here. So this is a snapshot off of our control panel, and it just shows the flow through the plant. I mean, this slide is pretty busy and it's showing everything on there, but the conveyors, the legs, the different machineries going through, and then where it's ultimately ending up, screenings, bins, and clean bins. I tried to come up with a more clean way to show this, but this was probably as good as anything I could draw. So that when the seed first arrives at the plant, it's received in one of two receiving bins, and we're moving that into the plant with a vibratory conveyor to a leg, where the leg takes it into the plant. But the vibratory has two decks of screens in it. So the raw seed, it's got a scalping screen in it and a sifting screen. So the raw seed is quickly scalped and sifted. This part of the process really shines when you have lentils, for instance, where you've got a lot of maybe dirt in there. You're down on the ground, and there's soil or dirt that comes in with the seed. This way, it's sifted right out of there before it sees any of the machines in the plant, and we don't even have to deal with it. That can cause problems later in the process if you don't get rid of it quickly, and that's where it really shines. Takes out a number of small weed seeds if they're present. And it also scalps out some unthreshed heads and, sticks, stem parts, and it increases the efficiency of the other machines. So the first machine that the seed sees when it enters our plant is our Garrett Aaron screen machine. And this machine has tons of screen area. It does the majority of the heavy lifting, I say. It does the majority of the separations. And really, every machine that follows this one is actually, I consider them polishing machines, fine tuning that, picking out the small amount of material that does get through. This is lifting lights, and it's, with all the screen area in there, it's doing a lot of the screening. So then in the next machine, we're following the Aaron screen with our indents. We can bypass these. We rarely do. I think the times when you'd bypass these are on more fragile seeds, such as lentils and the peas we've done. And really, when you're doing something like a larger seeded pea like that, you don't need to usually run them through an indent anyway. I don't even think it would be worth it because it would be so hard on them. We've included 2 sets of indents, large pockets, small pockets. The large are picking out longs, and the small pockets are shorts. And this machine, it works very well, does a good job. It's just that the rolls don't, our machine, the rolls don't open, and it's very difficult to clean out. It's just time consuming. We've got a process now where we're real good at it, and we get it cleaned out, but the efficiency of cleaning this machine out is one that drives me crazy sometimes. So I think that's just one comment about that machine. Does a good job, just harder to clean out. From the indents, we're sending seed over our gravity separator. It's a Garrett 2410, and this is the final step. This machine is really excellent at separating same size product. It's separated by specific gravity. So if you've got same size product that the screens, the indents, they can't get, this will separate by more or less by weight. And really good at separating, lighter material than the seed. So in our case, Fusarium in the last 10 years has become more of an issue certain years. This really does a great job of getting that out of there. And it'll separate heavies too, but this primarily we're using it for the lighter than the seed product to separate. That we've changed this machine just recently in the last 2 years, and the updated model is even more accurate than our older one was. From the gravity, the seed enters one of 2 clean bins that we're using. And with our seed plant, we've set it up with 3 dedicated air systems to move the clean seed and the screenings. So the two of these systems, these blue blowers that you see there, that's our screening setup. And we've separated our screenings into lights and heavies. So the lights are generally, it's sold for livestock feed usually. There's generally not, we try to limit as much good full-size kernels of seed going in there that we can, and we can get that pretty accurate. The heavies is generally, your heavier weed seeds and smaller seeds, smaller product that you're cleaning. So it's generally a high percentage of grain, and it will be sold as commercial grain. Depending on the concentration in there, we'll send that out directly, or we can blend that off with some of our commercial grain that's going in too. So that that's how we're handling that. Our clean side too, we're using, I don't have a picture here, but we're using a dedicated air system and airlock for that too. So there's no mixing of in any of the lines. So that's the overview of the seed plant. In our grading room, we use a whiteboard with a map of bins. So each bin is updated on the whiteboard as the different seed lots move in and out. And also our receiving bins, clean bins, and the screening bins are labeled on the map and also with magnetic signs. So this is just another stop check, I guess, for our staff that we have a visual representation in the grading room of what's in the bins, where it's going, and also physically outside when you're walking around, you can see it on the bins. And this is just, when it's just another, I guess, double checking and making everybody aware what's what and where it's going. So that's kind of how we're handling the tracking of the seed flowing through the plant. And we're using a on-stream sampling. So our on-stream samples are taken at the end of the line. We're catching those off of the gravity machine. Sample size that we catch is usually about 1 kilogram. So half that sample is then kept. We have a pail with a lid right there. Half that sample goes into that pail. Half is taken back into the grading room. And we do this at 30-minute intervals. So we're at the same time, and then that sample we take in the grading room, we're hand screening it, inspecting it, and as we build our retained sample, we're also grading at the same time to just monitor what's going on. And the composite samples has built at the same time, and it's, I guess, helps us tune our machinery too, so we can see if anything's getting through, or if we need to adjust something. It's just a continuous process. We have a clean log sheet where we log the time. Anything we find, it's labeled with the variety and the lot that's going through. So we keep these records, and if we ever have to refer back to it, if we ever have a question later on, we've got these as just another record of what actually went on in the seed plant. Our composite sample that we keep, that we catch, I'll use that to do our own grading. I'm a licensed operator and grader, so I can do my own grading, but I feel that it's important to have another set of eyes look at those samples. So I'll take a sample from the representative sample, send it to an accredited lab, have them do a purity analysis at the same time they're doing our germination and other tests that they might be needed. And then I'll compare my purity to the purity that I get back from the lab. And it's just another way that I feel confident in the grade that we're applying to that seed lot. And then our retained samples are stored in plastic pails, tight lids, and that protects the integrity and security of the sample. So if we ever have to refer back to it for any reason, there's no question that it got potentially contaminated somewhere. When you talk about clean out, it's paramount. I mean, that's what, if you don't do a good job here, your purity will never be good. So we have developed a checklist for employees to follow. All screens, doors, slides, panels, whatever can be opened is opened up. Screens are wire brushed to clean out seeds that are caught in those screens. And once everything's opened up, we go through it, compressed air. We use a leaf blower, and then also the shop vac. So it's just use the tool that needs to be used for the machine that needs to be cleaned out, and hopefully, we've got it down pretty good. So the grades are coming back pure. We're not seeing seeds that I wouldn't expect to see. So we're doing a quite good job now. Cleaning out with the system we have. And another tip that we'll use is the first few minutes that we run through of each lot that we run through our plant. 5 to 10 minutes. I don't know if it's that long sometimes, but we'll run that amount of time, stop the plant completely, go take out the seed that's come through to the seed clean bins, and we'll just dispose of that as commercial grain. I know it's sometimes you get a small lot, so like a plot or what, you hate to waste any seed, but we'll waste that first little bit just to ensure that the incoming seed has flushed out any seeds that may have gotten missed somewhere in one of the machines. So that's just another check or process we use to feel confident that we're not missing anything in that seed lot. And then when appearance matters. Details are what the seed business is all about, and the appearance of a clean plant is another reassurance to the customer that you're doing it right, doing a good job. Sanitation is especially important. We feel it's reassures the customer. It reduces that anything that may attack or attract rodents. And spillage on the floor is it's a safety hazard. It's slippery out there. Our floor in the seed plant is concrete. It's finished concrete, and you can get seeds rolling around the floor, and it gets slippery at times. So it's a safety issue, and we, that means it also helps monitoring for spillage can indicate a machine malfunction or if something's leaking, probably a bearing or something's wore through, or whatever. It's just another. So if you keep that floor swept regularly through the day, all of a sudden you're seeing a spillage, then you can fix the problem as it happens instead of when it causes you more issues. And it's just good practice. I mean, in the seed business, you've got to pay attention to the details, and it's just good practice. And so that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thanks for your time. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take them now. And feel free to contact me at any time. There's my phone number and my email. And thank you. Thanks again, Lori, for the opportunity.
Well, thanks so much, Alan, for the presentation. We do have one question already. I'm wondering if we can have the questions at the afterwards presentation so that both of you have an opportunity to answer the questions. Might have different perspectives. The one thing that I also didn't mention at the beginning was we're inviting all of you that are on the call to put into the Q&A what your best tip or trick is, because this is a learning opportunity for many growers, and you might have something that you do that works really well as a seed grower. So we welcome you to put that into the Q&A. So any of your tips and tricks. All right, thanks, Alan. You can stop your screen share, and now we will have Ward Oatway. Ward is with Oatway Seed Farm, and he's in Clive, Alberta. So Ward will let you bring up your presentation. Thanks again, Alan.
Thank you.
I had to unmute myself ahead of time. That was good. Um, yes, my name's Ward Otway. I'm a seed grower at Clive, Alberta. Um, I just was looking through paperwork the other day. This is actually this year. Otway Seed Farm will be 40 years old coming March, so that's a milestone for us. Started with my father back in '81.
We can't see your screen.
Oh, okay. Hang on here.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. So yes, I'm a seed grower here with the family operation. Most of the time, it's just me. My wife works for Lori as a research scientist at Olds College now. Used to be Alberta Agriculture, but now is Olds College. So she gets time off in the fall to help me combine, so that's always good. We're just east of Lacombe, so we're far enough away from the foothills, but we still have problems with early frost, things like that. So we find that our area is big in the feed barley for feed for dairies, feedlots, that sort of thing. So it's actually after our peas, the first thing we put in, so we can get it off in good shape. Usually for most people, first thing they put in is wheat, but we find it can take the weather a little bit better than the barley can. Sec here. Okay. So yeah, becoming a seed grower, continual learning process. I mean, 40 years means nothing when it comes to what you can learn by doing and by seeing what others do and learning as you go. Here's some references to look up that we all need and all refer to when it comes to meeting the standards and having those kind of things at your fingertips when you need them, so that you can assure you're doing a good job. So yeah, planning. It's how to work smarter, not harder. Deciding what you want to plant is not you pull up to the edge of the field and decide. This is something that comes over time, and you plan well ahead. You can't change directions as quickly as what your commercial neighbors can. Variety selection, what works well in your area. What works well for me might not work well for someone else in another area of the province or other provinces. For us, like I said, it's feed barley is a big thing in our area. We have a harder time with malt, getting malt quality in this area. You have to move further south to have that happen more. So yeah, it's whatever is working the best for your neighbors basically is what you need to be looking at, and how to move your business that direction. Like I said, we're close to a breeding institution here at Lacombe. And I used to work there before coming back to the farm. So yeah, you've got your Breeder Select Foundation registered, certified, that you can work through. And lucky in this area that we can see the whole thing from start to finish, being so close to them, and how that works, and how we need to ensure that purity moving forward, so that the customer is happy with what they're getting. Rotation. you've got to keep those fields as clean as you can. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are times where it doesn't work. Accidents happen, things like that. So you do the best you can. You know, for me, it's you're trying to limit the amount of chances you can have for volunteers to show up in your crop, or any impurities that way, which is just monitoring. You have to keep a close eye on everything, make sure that, you know, that you're doing everything you can and taking the best steps you can to ensure that, whether it's, you know, going from, if you're going to be switching a variety, then you're moving from a, you know, you're doing a year of Roundup Ready canola, then a year of peas, get that cereal out of there, and then you're, you know, as confident as you can be moving into the third year that you've got that cleaned up. Does it work 100% of the time? No. You'll sometimes have to cancel that particular crop if it comes to that. So yeah, you have to make sure that it meets the land requirements. There's a form you can get, you know, from CSGA for previous land use requirements. Gail will probably touch on that later, so that it meets the regulations for moving from seed crop to seed crop. This is, I believe it's Renee, our past president's farm. Spring cleaning, planting equipment. I can't stress enough that you need equipment that's going to be easy to clean out. If it's a struggle, then it's just going to take longer, and you can't guarantee anything. I mean, nothing's a guarantee in life, but you need to be able to do it easy and as, you know, as timely as possible. You've got with ours, it's a fairly new case plant seed drill that, you know, its heritage is in the flexic oils, which were very easy to clean out, as opposed to some others. You know, you drop the bottom out, high volume air, blow it out, run it with the fan going with nothing in it to make sure all the tubes are clean, manifolds are clean, taking the manifolds apart between varieties, you know, all the things you need to do to make sure that you know, is easier to clean out. And, you know, going from, you know, if you can do something between cereal varieties where that is a non-like crop type that's easy to clean out, or will flush your drill, then that's perfect too. It doesn't always work out that way, but you know, you do what you can to get that done and make sure that you can keep it clean. Same goes with augers. You know, you've got to keep those cleaned up as best as possible. I mean, ideally, you'd want a conveyor loader on your air seeder. As it turned out with ours, our air seeder is a little too small to carry the weight of a conveyor. So we do have an auger on it. The auger it came with, not ideal. It was taking me a good 15 minutes each time I loaded to clean it out. We are neighbors with Rodano Industries, which have the Extend augers. They were rolling out a new line for air seeders to go underneath Super Bees or grain trailers. So we got the prototype, and that was the one thing I stressed with them, is like, I have to please make it easy to clean out. So they've made it so that you can flip the whole hopper upside down, run it backwards while it's upside down. Lots of doors to open to clean out. It's so much easier than the one that came with the machine. I mean, not everybody's, you know, easy to, you know, has access to that, but yeah, having them that close and be able to, you know, now their commercial auger is got that ability to be cleaned out easy. So hopefully hopefully some of you out there can maybe look at that as well. Isolation distances, yeah, it'll be talked about a little bit more with the rest coming up. It's keeping your 3 meter between the crop kinds, and keeping that black all year, whether it's or spraying it. A lot of people mow and spray. We have always done the disking or cultivating. It was always the job of the well, it was my job growing up, and now I've passed that off to my daughters when they're around to go out there and disc that, and yeah, it makes for a nice day out on the tractor. But yeah, all the regulations are there in Circular 6, something that it's the Bible for seed growers. So you need to have that handy or able to access it when you need to, and know the specific distances, because it does change. Sometimes the staking is okay now, and sometimes, like for soybeans, it's not. It's always I always try and fault on the side of caution, and keep the distances. Roguing, we all hate it, but it's something that you need to do. Even if you don't think there's a problem, you need to go out and walk that and make sure. You don't want it to be, you don't want Linnell and the other inspectors to be out there and go, oh, now you have a problem. You need to know if there's a problem ahead of time. And it can be, it's not always something that's happened with you. I mean, we've had problems with contamination from wildlife. Some of the worst problems are when you have a game trail through your land, and they've come from that nice wheat crop of your neighbors and walked across your barley crop, and then sure enough, here you have a bunch of wheat growing in your barley crop. So it's something that you wouldn't notice without actually being out there and looking. So you have to do that throughout the season. There's a little quick video of my daughter.
Barley that we're soaking up. Bree has found ahead of her there. So we're just gonna make a nice pass through and make sure everything looks good and on.
Yeah, so yeah, it's something we'll have to do. I mean, I get the groans and moans from the kids when it comes time to do it. And this is Renee, our past president of the Alberta Seed Growers. She's sporting the look that most of us have in the fall when it comes to cleaning out combines and augers and everything else. Dirty, itchy, horrible job that we have to do, but like I said, you have to do it. It's frustrating when your neighbors are moving from field to field without so much as a hesitation in the harvest time, and beautiful hot summer or fall day, and you're shut down for 2+ hours trying to clean everything out and get everything so you can move on. It's hard to get 100% clean out on everything. So you try the best you can. I mean, the first thing you need to do when you're a seed grower is usually to buy one of those tow behind industrial compressors, so you can get the most amount of air volume you can when it comes to blowing it down. Access. If your machinery doesn't have easy access doors to areas where it's catching up, then getting someone to, or if you have the talent to modify it to have doors to open to access those areas so you can clean out, so much the better. Sometimes it's easier, like if you're going to be moving from let's say wheat to barley or vice versa. If you've got a field of canola that's pretty clean, and it's a lot easier to do that flush, go through that canola field, or do some canola for a day, do a really good flush. You still have to do that big clean. I mean, there's no avoiding that, but at least you've taken the grand, amount of the previous crop out with that kind of flush. Peas also are a good way of doing that if you have some. So that, it's much easier to do it that way than to, start from scratch. I mean, there's some days you can't avoid it, you have to do that. But if you can make it easier, so much the better. Anything you can do to limit that downtime is worth it. If you can make it easier to, have dropouts, modify it so things flip over or can dump out, blowers, compressors, you name it. If you can use it, vacuum cleaners, of course. I'm not sure what I'm going to do when my daughters aren't home anymore. They're the ones that are limber enough to get into that hopper and hang upside down and vacuum things out and get everything out. I can do it, but yeah, it's a little bit harder. Like I said, the compressor is a must. And cleaning out, and I know this is harder on large farms. For me, it's not as bad since we're relatively small, but it's nice to clean out in one location so that you can, limit the spread of any weeds or anything like that. We clean out in one spot in a yard, and then and it's on grass, so that later I can come along with the bobcat, scoop it up, burn it, whatever I need to do. It does make a great grazing area for deer all winter. They love to paw through that pile, but yeah, get it out of there, get it disposed of. Make sure that you're not spreading it all over the countryside. I mean, on large farms, you probably aren't going to be able to do that. You're not going to drive 10 miles back to clean out. Generally, you'll do it where you need to do it, but try and minimize it as much as you can. It's not an ideal situation. I mean, with our farm, a lot of our bins are the old rib style bins on converted hoppers. It takes longer to clean out, but it's what we have. And it just takes a little bit more detail. We do it in the summer when we have a little bit more time to do things, so everything is ready to go when we start. Yes, I know there is a lack of safety around me there. I do have a pallet at the home farm that does have railings, but we'll try and ignore that for now. Yeah, it's a beast of an old compressor, but boy, it sure works. I mean, the engine might not be the best thing in the world, but the air compressor part's really good. So, yeah, it's a must-have. Vacuum cleaner is always I think we've burnt out, I don't know how many of those things over the years with how much vacuuming we do. There we go. Sorry. Yeah, equipment can set you up for success. Storage bins, like I said, those ones are not ideal. Having your smooth wall bins is much easier, of course. Aeration is always, something you have to clean out around as well. Hopper bottom bins, definitely. I mean, no one likes using the flat bottom bins if you can't help it. I mean, harder to clean out, everything like that. God help you if you ever put peas in them. GPS for mapping. Input costs also, a lot of the times the seed growers, we have a limited amount of stock seed. You have to be able to use what you have and get that ground covered, and you don't usually have a lot to spare, so overlapping and things like that are not something you want to have happen. Also, it makes it way easier to do your isolation strips. If you can bump it over that 3 meters and then do the strip for the next one, then perfect. That's the much easier way than trying to eyeball it. if you're select grower, I mean, there's, Gail will touch on the requirements of that later. We often for this, we have smaller refurbished equipment for our plots. Like I have an old Melro 8-foot drill that I use. It means you have to cultivate the heck out of things for it to work that way. Seed grower down the road from us, Russell Wildeman, has an old 1680 combine that he uses for his plots. That's all he, it's a much smaller, easier to clean out than the big ones. I mean, you do the best with what you have, of course. And I mean, I know a lot of people have used water for clean out. Don't recommend it. All it tends to do is stick the seeds to everything. That on top of it, it's not great for bearings, everything else. I mean, it's just, if you've got time to let it dry, that's awesome. But if you're looking to get onto the next field, it's not going to work out very good. You're just going to end up with a mess later. So it's much easier to use the air, keep things dry. And yeah, you want to be able to weigh that time that you're going to spend cleaning that equipment. I mean, if it means you don't buy green and buy red or vice versa or blue to make life easier, then that's maybe what you should look at. I mean, I know for some it's you only do the one thing, but I mean, I looked at a lot of different drills and combines before I made a decision on which way I wanted to go. So yeah, just easier access. I know this isn't a John Deere case, has a similar thing where you can remove to get to parts and auger beds underneath. Not the easiest thing. You can hear Renee is working pretty hard to get this done, but yeah, it's not the easiest, but you got to do it to get in there. There it is. Yeah. Any questions? I guess I think that's about it for me. If looking back on things, if there was something, it's you could change or whatever. I mean, our farm is pretty small. And it's grown quite a bit. I mean, you look at, we started with a scale big enough for a 3-ton, and now, our scale is almost too small for a lot of the bigger units even now. So, you want to grow into what you're building or you're getting.
Thanks, Howard.
Stop share. There we go.
Thanks so much. So thanks to Alan and Ward so much for your presentations. We have a couple of questions already, and but I'll start the go around maybe. And I asked you guys this before so you could be prepared. But for you and Alan, if you had one do-over, what would it be?
Well, I'll go ahead and go, and I think I talked about in our plant, like our indent machine. I would definitely, I would like to have a newer machine, or not, doesn't have to be newer, but just the one where we could take the rolls apart. Cleaning that thing out takes so much time, and you have to be so careful to get it properly cleaned out that I know we could pick up a lot of efficiency by changing that out. And it's just one of those things with, at the time we looked at it and we went with these reconditioned, rebuilt indents, and yeah, they work great, but cleaning them out is a time consuming and not very efficient operation.
I agree with you, Alan. That was the choke point in mine too. Those are the hardest things to get going. No amount of air can move that stuff out. But from my point of view too, ease of clean out is, yeah, I mean, I look on with envy at some of the growers that have the massive vineyards with all the nice smooth wall, hopper bottom bins that are, you know, so easy to clean and everything like that. And, you know, I wish we could have, you know, at the time, but in 81, I mean, we were pretty limited on the amount or size of bins you could get. And, you know, and our yard was not, you know, our yard was set up back then when all our customers were either bringing tandems or 3 tons. Now, you know, with grain trailers, super bees, things like that, it is, you know, it's a nightmare trying to move them around in there, and building a whole new yard in our area is not, you know, really feasible. So, you know, you do what you can with what you have, and you just try and be careful and clean. I mean, it takes longer to clean it, but it's what you have to do. So yeah, I mean, if I had to do over, I mean, I'd love a nice big flat piece of land to do it on, but in our rolly hilly country, we're on a knob. That's all you end up with. So yeah.
Great answers, guys. Ward, looking at some of the scenic pictures that you had in your presentation, I'm a little jealous in flat Manitoba here. So I guess it's what you get, right?
You bet.
We have a question directed at Alan in the Q&A section from Wayne Amos. What are your tricks for cleaning indents? Do you have any further than the headache it causes?
Yeah, we've just, what we'll do is we'll run them empty for 20 to 30 minutes. Just let things, you know, we'll dump the tray, the troughs inside, turn them upside down, let it run for 20 to 30 minutes. You know, it'll rattle as much of that leftover seed out of there. And then once they've run for a period of time, we'll we've got it, both ends are open enough that we can get the shop vac end in one end and the air compressor with a long wand in the other end. And we'll just blow from one end to the other. Shop vac will catch as much as it has coming into it, and then we'll do that 2-3 times, and it works pretty good. It's just that it takes some time and it's not very efficient, but we've got it figured out. It's time consuming, but we get it done.
Kelly here from Alberta. I have 2 things. I want to remind everyone to take a look at the Q&A because that's where we've got some tips and tricks from other growers. Nick says, I bought a dust helmet from Graham's Seed Treating last season. Best thing I ever did for keeping the dust off and my eyes open while cleaning combines. And I'd like to follow that up with a question from Alicia, and that would be to both of our growers. When you're purchasing plot material or seed lots from another grower, what do you do to ensure the purity of the seed you bring in?
I know in our case, what we do there, we'll sample it. As we bring it in, you know, we'll take a sample, we'll retain that sample, and we'll also do our own purity on it. So it gives us an idea what we're starting with, and if there are any issues, we should see it there. Yeah, just sample it as you bring it in, and then retain a sample too. I think it's not sure what else, but that's how we'll handle it anyway.
Yeah, I agree with Alan. Retaining a sample of it. I mean, you're hopefully bringing this in from people that you trust and that you've worked with, and you know that they're cleaning to those standards that meets. So, I mean, you do your best to mitigate the risk, of course. So, and towards Nick, I think that's actually that air clean or that face mask that Renee was wearing, I think is one of those ones. Yeah, it would be a good investment for cleaning.
Thanks, Ward. Thanks, Alan.
The next question comes from Alyssa. Do you find it a challenge to hire someone to not only understand farming practices, but also the importance of cleaning equipment because we are pedigreed growers?
It's tough to find someone with patience is the problem usually if they've grown up on a farm that hasn't been a seed farm. You know, getting them to understand that you need to take the time is a tough one. You know, it's for things like roguing and that. I mean, I've hired the, you know, high school students and stuff like that, and you have to do a bit of on the job training and things like that, and they don't really understand why they're there, but they know what they're supposed to be doing. But yeah, from a farm aspect, it's tough. Alan would likely know more than I would. I don't have many employees.
Yeah, it's a mindset thing, and just coaching them. They may look at you like you have two heads when you ask them to do some of this stuff, but it's just a coaching. They'll eventually understand why, but when they've never been exposed to it, it's a totally different way of managing things. And yeah, I don't think there's any quick answer. You just have to have a good checklist of what things to follow, and then just coach them along. You know, it's a mindset. I don't know what else to say.
All right. Thanks, Alan and Ward. We'll move on now to the presentations from Linnell Olson with Caliber Seed and Amelia Hamilton with the Crop Inspect. So ladies, if you want to share your screen. And as we mentioned before, we're happy to have some CFIA people here as well as people from CSJ that may have things to add to the conversation later when there's questions.
All right, Lori, are we good?
Yes, I can see it.
Perfect. All right. Good morning, everyone. Amelia and I would like to thank the SAS Seed and Alberta Seed Growers and Manitoba Seed Growers for inviting us to talk in this Seed Talk series on what your LCI wants you to know. We're kind of co-presenting this presentation. I'm Linnell Olson, owner and LSCI of Caliber Seed Services. We operate mostly in Saskatchewan, and I will let Amelia introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Amelia Hamilton, and I work with AgCall Crop Inspect as a project manager and as an LSCI in Central Alberta. Linnell and I work together on the ASCIS Association board, and we're happy to be here today to share a few pointers with you about crop inspection.
Perfect, thanks, Amelia. Yeah, as Amelia mentioned, our ASCIS board, it really helps with us forming that board to have flow of communication between us, what we see out in the fields with CFIA and CSJ. So to start off with, we're going to have 6 topics that we're going to talk about, and I'll start off with maps, isolations, and staking plots. And Amelia will talk about crop staging for inspections, double checking your application, and canceling applications. All right, so on to maps. Maps are very important, as CFI has in their QSP manual that we have to follow when we do inspections. In section 4.5 states that seed growers' responsibilities. In paragraph 2 states that seed growers must submit maps through the Canadian Seed Growers Association Seed Cert, must have legal physical address or legal land location. Plots must be marked on the map and must include recognizable landmarks, adjacent crops, buildings, towns, highways, and any given distance, as measurements must be shown. With that being said, the 2 maps examples that I have on this slide, the map on the left is what a seed grower had submitted using a Google converter, And the reason why this isn't a good map is because it doesn't show legal land location, any recognizable landmarks or adjacent crops. So we took his map and put in the other applications that he had. And the reason why our map is acceptable to CFIA because it shows the town, adjacent crops that he had for inspections, and then the legal land locations with the field IDs. So it's just more clear. So in the red arrow of the map on the right was the map that the seed grower was trying to indicate in the map on the left. And at this time we were inspecting peas. And so we would have missed, you know, the peas in other areas if we didn't make revamp the map that he had given. So with that being said, the next slide, we have a great example of acceptable map that covers covers all the parameters that CFIA is looking for. An RM map is really great because we can double check the land location that's on the application with what the grower has put on the map. He's included his field ID, variety name, sequence numbers. Then he made another map, which is shown on the right for his plots. And he then also made like showing where the boundaries of the fields are so that we can kind of get an idea of what makes a good map or what the field looks like. So I think the take-home message is when you can use any sort of system to make maps, but whenever you're making maps, make sure you're labeling the field ID, the sequence number, the variety, and have recognizable landmarks like adjacent crops. Like, for example, if you had other applications that were close by, you know, putting them together on one map it will check off that adjacent crop request. So highways are good, buildings or towns that show the distance. I think those are the key things. So we've seen RM maps or detailed drawn maps, which is really good. You can use the Seed Certs GPS coordinator converter, Prairie Locator app, or any third-party agronomy field apps. So any of these are fine to use as long as, you know, you're showing that you're labeling it correctly and you can see the adjacent crops or how it gets to that, how you could get to that field. So just a note that'll be different this year is the maps need to be uploaded to Seed Cert. The application is submitted. You'll have a 14-day grace period. But if you don't have your map submitted with your applications within 14 days, CSJ will start fining for $50. I'm not sure if that's per application, but I think we have someone that'll answer that for us. Moving on to isolations, I always tell my growers to double check their Circular 6 for isolation requirements. As you know, field peas don't have the same isolation distance as faba beans or beans. So always start your isolations early in the season to avoid wet conditions that might come up later in the growing season that can restrict your control. I have some examples of what I've seen that growers have done, and they've either had to cultivate 3 times, mow about 3 times, chem fallow, and the best practice I've seen is that they mow the crop first and then cultivate it after. So when maintaining your isolations, make sure there's no second growth, because then that will, when we're out there and seeing, you know, flax flowering or full bean plants in between your isolations, you know, we have to unfortunately ask you to come and redo it. So in a situation where you're taking your select seed and wanting to make another plot from that seed lot, you can stake the plots instead of mowing. This is an exception for beans. So this is where, always reading your circular 6 is important. In lieu of 1 meter isolation, you can use wooden or fiberglass stakes. Must be visible above the crop. There must be at least 8 stakes that are left in the field till harvest time. Inspectors are expected to ensure that there's no contaminations 1 meter outside the stake plots. So if you see in your reports that, we saw contamination outside the stake, outside your plot, that is something that we have to record. Then moving on to probationary plots, make sure you read your circular 6, section 1, page 1-13 to 115. Little bit different there, but not so much when it comes to staking. It's kind of the same parameters when you have select plots. All right, I will turn it over to you, Amelia.
Perfect, thanks, Linnell. So I'm just gonna start with crop staging here. So the ability to visually identify off types is very dependent on crop staging. So the inspector needs to be able to observe small differences in plant phenotype or plant characteristics, which is easiest to identify at specific growth stages, depending on what crop kind you're inspecting. For new pedigreed seed growers, your LSCI will be in touch prior to inspection, but knowing the staging for inspection can be helpful to ensure that the fields are ready with rogaine complete and isolations prepared before inspection. Circular 6 outlines the inspection timeframe at the beginning of each crop-specific section under the crop inspection. Your LSCI will use this as well as reference the CFIA's crop-specific work instructions for optimal crop staging. So peas are usually inspected at the early flowering stage, which is about 60 days after planting in average conditions. There should be at least a flower per plant, and they can be inspected anytime while still in bloom, but the longer we wait, the tougher they are to walk. Lentil, chickpea, lupin, and faba beans are inspected at full flower, while field bean is inspected about 7 days after the inception of flowering. This crop staging is usually around the same timing for fungicide application, so please do make sure that you're communicating your spraying plans with your inspector. So for flax and cereal inspection, flax is inspected at full bloom and in the morning. The conditions need to be warm enough for the flowers to be open, but prior to the heat of the day when the petals drop. For cereals, the general requirement is between heading and maturity, while it is recommended to wait until after flowering. Some characteristics are easier to observe after the crop has changed color, which will be the preferred stage for many LSCI. Oats are a bit of an exception, so they have 2 optimal stages for inspection, either while they're still green when differences in glucosity is present, or after they've fully turned when factoid oats are more visible. And for soybeans, soybeans are inspected after 90% leaf drop, and that means that 90% of the plants have lost all of their leaves. And at this stage, pod pubescence, and hilum color are easier to observe. So there's several environmental factors that can create challenges for inspection, such as excess moisture, making isolation management more difficult for producers. Excess heat and drought can cause pulses to never fully bloom and for pods to form early, so sometimes it's hard to catch those crops at the right stage. Sun bleaching, lodging, and hail also create challenges to visually inspect the crop. Sending photos to the crop inspector can be a very helpful tool. It's a good idea to set up your preferred communication method early in the season and to stay in touch. If you ever have any doubt, you can always call your inspector or your LSCI. So regarding applications, I just want to do a quick review on submission and cancellation. Please note that CSGA is now accepting applications for 2021. Listed here are the application deadlines by crop kind, which is also posted on the CSGA website. So remember to submit your applications by the deadline if possible. Prior to submission, always double check that you've included the correct contact information for the inspector to reach you. A cell number is always the best, and that your legal land location is complete and accurate. A wrong legal can, take an inspector across the province. So making sure that those are complete and accurate is really important for a seed company. Do check to ensure that you've got the correct selection made in the dropdown for that. And don't forget to upload your tags and maps either on submission or within 14 days. If you need to cancel an application, your LSCI will do this for you with written confirmation. Text, an email, or a cancellation form, such as the examples here, are sufficient to complete a cancellation. Just ensure that you include your grower number, sequence number, and your request in writing, and then your LSCI can upload that to the CSGA and complete the form. So that wraps things up for both Linnell and myself. Thanks very much for your time. I think we can take questions now.
Thanks, Amelia and Linnell, for the top things, I guess, as inspectors are out in the field, look at what they're looking for and what some of the challenges are. And we have a few questions. So Gail, did you want to, you mentioned the one question, did you want to answer Nick's question? I'll read it out loud. If you are planting a pedigreed seed field of chickpeas and wanting to intercrop with flax, does the flax need to be the same pedigree even though it's not the focus?
Okay, thanks, Lori. I'm happy to answer that question. So we have a few situations, usually each year, not a lot, where producers are planting more than one crop in the same field. We've had situations where both crops are for pedigreed status or one or the other. So the main thing there is if both are for pedigreed seed crops, that you have to submit an application for each field, even though they are physically located in the same field, because the inspector is going to have to do the inspection for each crop, so they need their separate sequence numbers. Now, with respect to the class or of the seed that's being planted, so the example here is chickpeas with flax. The main thing there, so the flax doesn't necessarily have to be pedigreed seed. In the past, you had to get CSGA approval. Now we leave it up to the growers just to make sure that the flax isn't going to pose a risk to the varietal purity of the chickpeas. So as long as your flax seed is clean, then that's the main thing. But the real trick with respect to intercropping is making sure that both crops can still be inspected. So in some situations, like I'm thinking this one might be a little bit difficult. If one crop is covering the other crop when it's time for inspection, then that can cause a bit of a difficulty. So you just have to keep in mind that at the time, and Amelia, I think, just touched on the stages of maturity for inspection. So each crop, like in this case, the chickpeas, as long as the flax isn't interfering with the inspection of the chickpeas, then it's fine. So that's sort of the risk that the grower takes themselves. And it's important for them to coordinate with their inspection service to make sure that the field is inspected at the right stage and one crop isn't impeding the other. So I've answered that question and kind of gone into a little bit more of a spiel there, but that's just kind of the main things that you need to think about if you're going to do intercropping. I don't know if Linnell or Amelia want to add anything from the inspector's perspective on that.
Or maybe someone from CFIA has something to add to that?
So I just kind of finalized by saying, just if you're going to do that, just be in touch with your inspector.
That's great, Gail. I know in Manitoba, I get questions every year about how the intercropping works, and I appreciate that background greatly.
All right, thanks Linnell and Amelia. And now we'll move on to Scott Barr. He's representing Bayer Crop Science. They are the presenters of today's webinar, which we very much appreciate. And Scott, it's all you now.
Okay, thank you. Let's get everything going here. So yeah, thanks for having us on today. Just give a quick little overview of what the Bayer Seed Growth does and a little bit on our products. First off, as we're covering all the prairie provinces, here's kind of a list of all of our group that works with the seed growth. You see we cover everywhere from Manitoba to Southern Alberta. So if you're looking for more information, feel free to reach out to any of our reps. The main thing we kind of look forward to and talk to our growers and other people we work with is ensuring that all the crop, you're starting off with a good clean seed, fully tested, so the seed treatment can protect your initial investment. It reduces the effects of disease during establishment, so the plant can focus its energy into growth rather than defending itself against disease pathogens. If you can get a strong establishment, healthy roots and vigor, and develop green leaf matter, you can manage your inoculum and control your smuts and bunts. So our main product is Raxel Pro and Raxel Pro Shield. These products have been around for 12 years, 3 active ingredients. We cover all the major early season disease protection, seed-borne and soil-borne. You can add in the insect protection of the Stress Shield. And we really pride ourselves on our formulation excellence. Like I said, excellent early season protection against seed and soil-borne. Our formulations are microdispersion. So it gives you ease of application in all kinds of temperatures, cool temperatures, warm temperatures, you name it. Our products work fantastic and don't vary a whole bunch in your application. As you can see in some of the graph, the warm seed to cold seed, rewarming of the seed, our products don't change in our flowability. It means it's going to flow through your machines, flow through the growers, seeding equipment, no problems. Viscosity, the way it's going to go through your treaters from +20 to -20, you're not getting a whole bunch of change. So if you've got seed plants or seed growers that are out treating like today and it's a little cooler outside, you can put total trust in our products so that they're going to work for you. Raxel Pro Shield is our insecticide. Improved emergence and plant vigor, higher plant stand counts, higher performing root system, robust growth and increased yield, improved ability to cope with unforeseen seasonal stresses. So the Stress Shield helps with that cool, damp, helps mitigate any of your early season stresses on your seed. The added wireworm protection helps protect against wireworms in your early season crops. Trilex is our pulse product and Trilex Shield. A quick picture of what an untreated and treated field looks like together. You can see the gets out to an earlier start, earlier flowering, bigger crop. Kind of what everything that the Trilex covers, from your seed decays, your rhizoctonias, your botrytises, fusariums, pythiums. And you can add in the stress shield for wireworm and your pea leaf weevil for the areas that are starting to see that more and more. New to our Bayer portfolio is Buteo Start. This is for protection against striped and crucifer flea beetles. It's a new active. It's a group 4D. How it works is it paralyzes and eventually kills off the flea beetles. It's a similar mode of action to neonics, but a different classification. So you're seeing different ways on how it works. You can see in the pictures the Buteo treated to just the straight Prosper. These are two small plots right beside each other. You can see the active feeding on the straight Prosper compared to the Buteo, where there's not a bite in it. Powerful protection from the start. So it's translocated into the plant, into the early cotyledons. So the rapid intake is from the first germination in the ground to the ground cracking. You're getting complete protection. You can see in the pictures there, you're getting the product working all the way up into that 4-leaf stage. So you're getting protection on flea beetles fairly far into that growing stage. You can see by the pictures again of the Prosper side is the one with all the bite holes, and the other side is the Buteo with very few and nice healthy plant. These pictures were from that Yorkton area where the infestations were a little bit higher. And this product works fantastic in wet and in dry areas. So you don't have to worry about if it's dry, if it's going to slow down anything. Canopy closure. Here's some pictures of some areas that were a little bit lower in the infestation areas. But you can see it just helps speed that canopy closure along, gets that plant coming up, going like crazy, and just fills in and turns into a nice crop. Our climate field view. So this is how we kind of do all of our trials, is with climate. You can see that we can map out the different strips for our plots. And we use the field health imagery quite a bit. As you can see, the Buteo strip is the purple one on the trial part of it. And the field health view is that nice green strip through the middle. And then we were lucky enough to get an aerial shot from an airplane. You can see that the Buteo just is so much further ahead than all the other strips and right into early flowering. A couple online resources if you're looking for some more information, or if you're looking to reach out to any of our seed growth specialists, you can go to bayer.ca. You can find all kind of information on all of our products. If you're looking for more information on Raxel or Buteo or any of our other products. And we have some tips and tricks. So if you go click onto the seed growth side of things, you can find different ways of dealing with seed treatments, videos, different articles. And if you're really looking in for YouTube, we have a YouTube channel, and you can find all kinds of interesting little videos and tips and tricks that we've put on there. And that's all I had, right?
Thanks so much, Scott. And again, we really appreciate your continued support of our activities. Each year, you've always contributed and helped us to deliver successful AGMs and other projects. Any questions for Scott before we move on? We don't see anything in the Q&A, but as we're going along, you can still always put something in. I see a hand up. Daniel, let's see here. Okay, Daniel, I'm allowing you to speak, so you need to unmute. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
sorry, Scott. I hate typing. Very good presentation. ProShield we've been using for quite a few years. In a piece here, or at least on my farm, we just about went broke 2 years in a row with wire worms. It seems to work good. Let's say you're seeding oats or wheat or whatever, but if you underseed with a grass seed or even a legume, a clover, ProShield seems to be as my entomologist said, is an anesthetic. It doesn't kill them. Is there any other? And then they'll take off and eat either the seed that's not treated, whether it's a clover or grass. Anything coming down the pipeline for an insecticide that'll do a better job on wireworm on cereals that'll actually kill them, like Lindane. Of course, that's gone, but
yeah. If we could go back to the Lindane days, that would make things a lot easier, but it's not going to happen. The way all of the insecticides work for in-seed treatments is it puts them in a coma-like state, and then it slows them down, causing them to hopefully starve themselves to death. Right now, there's really nothing on the market compared to, there's insecticides out there, but they all work in basically the same way. If you're looking for something in grasses, the Stress Shield does work in different grass spectrums, but the hardest part on grass, like pasture grasses and stuff, it's getting them treated just because it's so sticky. There is stuff in the works, but it's the way researching and getting stuff approved, it's a couple years away. So unfortunately, the only thing I can really say is, yeah, it's in the pipeline, but you're gonna have to wait a while to see anything really drastically improve the wireworm controls.
thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Scott. I don't see any other hands up. So we'll move now to Gail Harris, or sorry, there was a couple comments and questions from before that Brianna was going to address during the LSCI. So Brianna, did you want to address those now? Before
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Lori. Yeah, there's just a couple of clarifications from the LSCI presentation. One was regarding the MAP fee that's going to apply in 2021. So when we receive an application for seed crop certification that has neither GPS coordinates provided with it nor a map, then we'll send a notification to you, the grower, indicating that we're looking for that information. You'll have 14 days. It's not 14 business days, it's 14 calendar days to provide either GPS coordinates or a map. And then if we still don't have anything after that point, then there's a new $50 fee that's being applied for each field for which we don't have any information. So that was one thing. And then the second thing was just a clarification that, yes, there's no staking in beans. That doesn't include soybeans. There's definitely staking that's allowed in soybeans, but for beans, there is the 3 meter requirement for fields and 30 for plots. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Brianna. Okay, Gail, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, great. Can you see my screen?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, perfect. All right, so thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you for a few minutes this morning. We're going to talk about succession planning as a seed grower. Are you prepared, as well as some changes to our plot grower requirements. So In today's presentation, we're going to specifically talk about what does succession planning mean for seed growers. It's important for all farm businesses for many reasons, but today we're going to focus on one aspect of succession planning that is unique and of particular interest to pedigreed seed crop producers. We're going to talk about why it's important. We're going to talk about how you become a CSGA accredited plot grower. And I'll just maybe reference here that sometimes we hear people talking about select growers for crops like wheat, barley, oats, soybeans. The plots are select, and so people use the term select grower. For crops like hemp and canola and mustard, the plots are at the foundation level. So when I say accredited plot grower, I mean select growers, foundation plot growers for all crop kinds. We're going to talk about who should be thinking about working towards accreditation. Oh, sorry, I missed one. How you become a CSGA accredited plot grower. And that we have some new tools for 2021 and some new requirements. So we'll talk about those a little bit. Then we'll talk about who should be thinking about working towards accreditation and when you should start. So what we're talking about today specifically for pedigreed seed production, succession planning, that really means ensuring that you have at least one CSGA accredited plot grower in your business. That will mean that you have an individual who's able to produce select plots for crops like wheat, barley, and soybeans, and foundation plots for crops like canola, mustard, and hemp. So again, all of those being called accredited plot growers. So why is it important? It is important because accreditation belongs to an individual. It can't be acquired through the affiliation with another grower. So for example, if you're a CCAN member and you sell seed to someone who's not a CCAN member, that even though the CCAN member, well, actually, I guess you're not even supposed to sell to a non-CCAN member, but my point is if you're not an accredited plot grower and you purchase the seed from an accredited plot grower, just because you have some affiliation there, it doesn't mean that you can produce the plot seed. It also can't be transferred from other accredited plot growers. So if you have a situation where you have a father and a son and a daughter in the same business and the father retires and transfers the business to their kids, then they would need to have accreditation in their own right. The accreditation from the father doesn't transfer along with the business. And then if you are transferring from a business from one generation to the next, it has to be well planned because it takes at least 4 years and sometimes up to 6 years to earn your accreditation. So COVID has taught us that sometimes life throws us a curve. And so you may not have as much time as you think in order to do that transfer. I guess I wanted to give you an example again about the accreditation and in terms of, like, to put it in context of seed production. So for accreditation, if you're in the seed business and you're a registered seed establishment, for example, you've got approved conditioners, which are the establishments that clean and pedigreed seed. They require an individual that is a licensed operator to operate the registered seed establishment, and an individual who's an accredited grader who can assign a pedigreed grade name to that seed. So the accreditation that we're talking about in the transfer, it's the same thing in that it's the individual that has earned the right to grade that seed or whatever it might be. So with respect to how you become an accredited plot grower, I'm going to digress just a little bit to explain a few background pieces of information that'll help you understand what we're explaining here. So right now, the way things are set up, you must be a CSGA member, which also includes then a branch membership in order to produce pedigreed seed. So we tie the membership to the certification process. So in order to get credit for production in a given year, it means having your name on the account and paying your individual membership fee. So in other words, if you've got a situation where you've got the father and then maybe maybe the mother as well, and say 2 kids who are all on the account, then as far as we're concerned, each of those people, if they've paid their membership fee, we're a seed grower that year and get credit for the production of that seed. And why that is relevant is that then counts towards your eligibility to begin probation production. So if you've never had your name on the account, haven't been paying membership fees, even though you might have been involved in the background, you wouldn't be eligible to start your probation. And you also require 2 to 3 years of probation production. So that's where it gets into taking some time to be able to finish this process. So if you're looking at the slide here that I have now, if you look at the underlined portions, they're kind of identifying where there's been a change for 2021. So in the past, the grower was required to have grown the crop kind they wanted to do their probation on in at least 3 of the previous 5 years. For this year, we've changed that. So basically, you just have to have grown pedigreed seed of any crop kind. So if you had wheat 1 year, soybeans 1 year, barley the next, you would be eligible to start your probation. And that can also be reduced to 2 years, which is something that's a little different this year, in that you can have produced pedigreed seed in 2 of the previous 4 years, providing that another accredited plot grower or a CSGA recognized plant breeder submits a declaration that the grower has sufficient seed crop production knowledge to produce plots. So in other words, if you're relatively new in the business, but you've been having another plot grower mentor you, and they're feel confident that you're ready to start plot production, then they can vouch for you and reduce that amount of time. The other thing that you can do to reduce the amount of time is, and this is something again that's new in 2021, and that is with respect to completing required e-learning modules. So the communication folks within CSGA have been working on some professional development e-learning modules for the last couple of years. There's 10 different modules, including some that are specific to plot production. It's completely voluntary, but it can reduce the time that it takes you to become an accredited plot grower. So the other thing that you need to keep in mind is that you need to complete 3 years of probation plot production to be granted the accredited plot grower status. Again, new for this year, that can be reduced to 2 years, providing the grower has completed the required e-learning modules, but they have to complete their entire probationary period within the same crop kind. It used to be you had to ask CSGA for permission to change varieties. You now can do that on your own because there's so much turnover of varieties. So if you're doing your probation on soybeans, if you need to switch varieties just because there's no market anymore for the one you started with, or no access to breeder seed or whatever the case might be, then you can switch varieties, but you have to do your entire probation period in the same crop kind. So you'd have to stick with the soybeans. You can only produce 1 probation plot in any given year of your probation. And historically, there was a maximum plot size of 1.25 acres for probation plots, but that's now changed where we're allowing the probation plots to be the same size as select plots or foundation plots. So that's another one of the changes for this year. So this is just a little bit of a summary of the process. So basically you seek CSGA and branch membership, and then you start producing pedigreed seed crops for at least 2 years. Then you're able to apply for your probation period. And once you have to successfully produce probation plots, and that means getting a crop certificate of the same crop kind for at least 2 years. Then you become an accredited plot grower, and you can now produce select or foundation plots for all crop kinds. So historically, you had to do separate accreditations for different crop kinds. That's no longer the case. If you are accredited, if you do your probation on wheat or whether you do it on soybeans, once you're accredited, you can now do plots of canola, mustard, or wheat, barley, soybeans, whatever crop kind you want. So your accreditation is good for all crop kinds. So now we just want to spend a little bit of time talking about who should be thinking about becoming an accredited plot grower. It really depends on the goals of your business. But if you're a farm or a business that relies on producing their own stock seed, so we had a question earlier on about purchasing seed from somebody else that Alan answered there in terms of, you know, Ward was saying that you have to trust the person to a certain extent if you can, if you've got experience with them. And Alan was also talking about maintaining some samples, but some people just prefer to produce their own stock seed, so it's in their control. So if that's the case, you want to make sure that you maintain an accredited plot grower. The other thing is that some seed growers have sort of made it their business to sell stock seed of the higher generation. So it's a bit higher value, and that's kind of a niche that they have for themselves where they'll produce a lot of select seed or foundation seed and then sell it to other people. So I just wanted to clarify, this isn't really applicable to forage and turf grasses or legumes because for forages, the only plots are breeder plots, foundation, or there is no select class, and foundation seed can just be planted in a large field. So this isn't really applicable if your niche is in the forage and turf grasses. And the other people who should be thinking about it is if your current accredited plot grower may be out of the business in the near future for whatever reason, they're going to retire, they've gone to a new venture, whatever it is that they're doing. So when should you start? There's an old saying, there's no time like the present. So again, you know, you can have the best laid plans, but if you're relying on a single accredited plot grower and something happens, it's going to take you a while to get going. So if it's something that's important for your business, you might want to start inquiring about becoming an accredited plot grower. So with respect to the qualifications and the application, you can visit our website at seedgrowers.ca. There's a specific section there on plot production and probation plot production that will give you all the gory details. I didn't touch on certain things today, like you start with breeder seed, and there's just a few other details that you need to be aware of. So if at some point you start seriously thinking about it and you go through the Circular 6 and you still have some questions, I'd invite you to contact the office and either speak to myself or Brianna, and we would be happy to answer your questions. But in the meantime, if you have any questions on this presentation or about plot production right now, I'd be happy to answer them, and Brianna's with us as well. So I'll turn it over to you, Lori.
Thanks so much, Gail, for the update on those. The importance of having a clear understanding of how you get to have plot accreditation, I think, was very valuable. A lot of people don't understand that it resides with the individual, not the entity.
Correct.
Yeah. So we'll look at questions. Anybody got questions for?
We've got Kelly here. We've got one question from Rod Fedora, wondering why the need to reduce the years needed in becoming a select grower.
So what we've tried to do is actually make the accreditation process more effective and more efficient. So basically, by using the online learning modules, we think that that's going to be a good way for people to get to know what needs to be done. The other the other part of it is that we received a lot of feedback from growers that it took too long to become an accredited plot producer. In the past, it took a minimum of 6 years, and we would hear arguments that they could become a doctor or a lawyer in that time. Why does it need to take so long? So you know, we're hopeful that we're not losing anything by reducing the time, but just again, making it more effective by having those e-learning modules. So, and also so that we can recognize that in some cases, although they may not have had their name on the account, they may have actually been in the business in the background doing a lot of the work. So, you know, having the option for another accredited plot grower to vouch for the member or a plant breeder just gives them an opportunity to have that experience that they have be recognized. So effective, efficient, but not so long.
Thanks, Gail. Lori, I
Okay.
believe we've got some comments we want to go back
Well,
to.
first we have Daniel Limoges. He has his hand up, so I'm going to allow you to speak, Daniel. Go ahead.
Hey, Gail, a little bit of frustration, I guess, is what I'm going to try to explain, but not get too frustrated. I've been producing, you're saying forage seed is not in there. I've been producing, getting breeder seed producing foundation for most of my life. And when I want to do a select plot of wheat, I'm not allowed to do it. And it takes probably 10 times more power, energy, and time to do a plot of clover than what it does to do wheat. Now you mentioned on that if, am I allowed to get a plant breeder to sign off to say, yes, this gentleman is very capable of doing a wheat plot or a barley plot?
Well, with the sign off, you can reduce the number of years that you have been producing seed from 3 years to 2 years. But if you've been growing seed for some time, then you would be eligible if somebody, you know, would vouch for you in terms of being able to produce plot. But again, forages are not produced in plots. It's just foundation field, so an accreditation is not required. So the fact that you've been producing, like, have you also been producing other crop kinds as well?
I do produce other crop kinds, but I'm not allowed to do select plot because then I thought I had to do 4 years of select growing on wheat, let's say. But it's like I say, wheat and barley and cereal is so much easier than what it is to do forage seed.
Right.
We've
Yeah.
done forages that we also own exclusive rights to one variety. So, I mean, obviously, the farm knows what it's doing. We've had the plant breeders come out. We've also done breeder to breeder for Ag Canada, but I can't do wheat or barley, and especially in our area, because you're in free area, and it'd be great to have more select growers, and we've got a lot of forage seed growers that are capable of doing that.
Well, the way things are set up, you have to go through an accreditation process in order to produce select plots of something like wheat. And so that's something that it's a requirement that is the same for everybody, regardless of what other experience that you might have. But like to Rod's point, again, you know, reducing the number of years, we are trying to put some other aspects in there, like your experience if somebody's going to vouch for you, or being able to use the module. So we're trying to, Daniel, we're basically trying to do what you're suggesting and not just say point period, you have to have 3 years of production and then another 3 years of probation production. So we're trying to make it a little bit more workable for people, but there are still certain minimum requirements. And so, you know, if you're producing wheat regularly, then I would suggest just apply to go on probation and go ahead and start producing plots, which is what you want to be able to do. And then within a couple of years, you'll have that accreditation.
Okay, great. Just asking if anyone else has any more questions for Gail. We can wait a few minutes. In the meantime, there were some comments come through in the Q&A back to a tip and trick from Adam Littman. For storing plot production, we have obtained many hopper box wagons over the years where we will store the production from harvest to cleaning. then also clean it out and clean back into it. Then we have a mobile bin and can take anywhere we need. Just kind of cleaning up some of the comments that have been made along the way here. Michelle says there's a new seed treatment for wireworm control called Taraxa that kills wireworms, and she's put a Top Crop Manager link in the Q&A. I'm just reviewing here to see if I'm missing anything that needs to be read.
Well, there's the one, there's conversation going back and forth about the communications between growers and inspectors.
Okay, just hold on. Scott replied to that wireworm treatment that product works in the same way as other insecticides in way of lowering the feeding population through paralysis and starvation. And I don't know, yeah, there's a lot of chatter about liability with conversations with the inspector. I can read those, or Lori, do you want to take it?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. Wanda asks if she can be liable. If it says communication is recommended, that leaves room for blame and liability. This is something that I've been in discussion with Doug Miller. Doug's with CSGA, for those of you that might not know that, over the past couple of years. I'm more comfortable with the inspector having to contact me first, and then I will give the maps, forcing the inspector to contact me. And Amelia replies, maybe this is something that could be in the terms of inspection on the contract agreement with your service inspection company that will put the responsibility of the LSCI to communicate with the grower prior to entry. So there's a possible solution there for Wanda and others.
Yeah, and this started with the original question about, you know, is it her liability if the inspector doesn't contact her before inspection? And it was in respect to, you know, when there's been, specifically when there's been insecticide applied. So that's kind of where this was the last set of comments in regard to that question.
Yeah. I also feel like maybe there's, I don't know, maybe Wanda wants to talk, but I'm wondering if there's a timing issue between inspection and harvest too. She's hoping to have that connection made before she goes into combine.
Are you fine, Wanda, with the, have your answers been, or sorry, your questions been answered? Okay, she says, yes, all good.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So thanks so much to everybody for all the presentations today. I'm going to now give you a little bit of an overview of our interactive seed guide that we've been developing for the last year. And I'm just going to share my screen and right here. So we did this in response to moving kind of to the electronic age, that people were looking for a quick way to find varieties or resource seed. So this is an electronic version of our printed seed guide. So on the very first thing, if you already know what variety you want, then you can just type in, like, for example, if you wanted to find Loachco peas, you just type in the first letters and it shows it there, and you don't have to have the CDC. It just goes with those 3 letters. Then you choose that, you click the find seed, and then it'll show you who the breeding institution was, who's distributing it. And then after that, in alphabetic order of town, we list the growers who have that seed available. And there's still some things to work on this. We're not quite ready to launch it, but those with the blue have links directly to an email address that you could email them. And if you're wondering who's close to you, the quick, easy way, we have a map as well. So if you're over here, let's say in Leroy, then you can like scroll closer to Leroy, look, see who's closest. Then you would go on that pin, you click the pin, and it tells you who the seed grower is, their phone number, and the email address or website. And this information that we have, in case you're looking and you see there's some missing names, some have links, some don't. This is based on the information that seed growers allow us to use through the information they give to CSGA. So the ones that have links, that means we have an email address for them that has been in the file. So I'm going to go back. And then, for example, if you want to find Metcalf barley, again, you don't have to type in the AC, you just can hit Metcalf, find seed, same thing, shows you where they are. And the right here is the summary of what's in that, what was in your search. Now, that's the easy part, is if you already know the variety. If you look for variety, then our search tool, you would pick the crop kind. So I'm going to do a couple examples. So we'll pick cereals. We'll do, and these are all drop down lists. So we'll do wheat, the class. Let's look for hard red spring. We want something that's 95% of the Czech variety. We want it in the black and gray soil zones. We want good lodging resistance, intermediate fusarium, and you don't have to select all of these. You only select the ones you want. And fair sprouting or resistance to sprouting. Then you run the report and it shows all of the varieties that met your criteria. And it is a table where you can sort it by each of these headlines. So for example, if you want to sort it by yield, not because it's sorted automatically by alphabet. But if you want to sort by, oh, come on. Oh, making a liar out of me. Well, okay, let's do the lodging then. So the lodging, it did it by good and very good. So you can sort based on what's in the columns. So for example, if we want to look at AAC magnet, for example, we would just click on that. And again, the same thing that we showed you before, it tells you what you did in your search criteria up to a certain amount. And then again, it lists all the growers that have that seed with the map, with the pinpoint. You can move around in the map, see where they are, pick the one that's the closest to you, and then contact them for seed. Another example. Oh, okay, well, I'll tell you how to print and download. So let's go to pulses and look for some lentils. And we want small red. And yes, we want resistance to anthracnose. So run report. Oh, there aren't any varieties in that meet that search criteria. So this is what it'll show you. So that means that you need to change your criteria. So there's no varieties that are fully resistant to anthracnose. So you change your criteria, so pulses, lentils, small red. And then let's choose moderately resistant and then rerun the report. And then it gives you the list of all the ones that meet those search criteria. So the key is what you put in for your search criteria. You don't have to pick any criteria. Then it would give you the whole list and you could sort it out that way if you wanted. But for example, if we go to CDC Impulse, again, same thing, breeding institution, who has it? You can look at the map to see what's closest to you. And then there are certain varieties that, oh, so I'll show you this is how to download this. You would right click and then you would print it. And so you could either print it as a PDF or whatever you need, or you could download it so that you'll be able to generate a report that you can work with. And just one other search to show you. We'll go back to cereals. We'll do feed and food. You can see all the different crop types we have here. Durum, rye, barley, feed barley, malting barley, oats, triticale. That's in the cereals. Sorry, I should go back to this other group. We have cereals, forages, oil seeds, other crops such as canary seed, and pulses. So go back to my example here. Food and feed barley. Class, you want hulled. And well, we'll just run the report. All right, so here's your report. And so let's say we want to see cowboy barley. So what it's showing us is that even though cowboy barley is in the trials, there currently are no seed growers who are growing that seed. So then you would go back to the search engine and pick a different variety to select. So that's a very, very quick overview of what we're looking at for this. And in the interactive seed guide, we're pretty excited about the opportunities it's going to offer people. It's being set up to be mobile friendly. And we want to thank the Canadian Agriculture Partnership, which funding has helped us to be able to put together this interactive seed guide. So like I said, it's a very quick overview of what the tool looks like.
Lori, you have a question from Kim. Can you see it? Carryover seed of pedigree status in this locator and the guide.
Just a minute, I can't see the question, so could you repeat it?
Sure. This may be covered yet in the presentation, but just wondering on process to have carryover seed of different pedigree statuses, both in this locator as well as on the seed guide.
Yeah, it's in the seed guide now, as far as I understand, and it is also included in here. Anybody that has carryover seed, if people are looking for seed, it'll show up.
It may not show up as listed as carryover, though. It may just show up in action. At least that's how we do it in.
Right. I'll have to double check that, but that's a great comment. Thank you. In our seed guide, there are ones that are signified as carryover. So I didn't look specifically for an example of that, but I think that we do have it accounted for. I just don't remember where, but thank you so much for that. I will make sure we put that in our questions.
Yes, Wanda is saying if you want to add to seed locator, there's a fee attached. So I don't believe there's a fee attached to the CSGA seed locator, but there is to list carryover seed, I believe, is where the fee comes in. But Gail might be able to answer that better.
Sorry, unfortunately, I can't.
Okay.
You need to contact, I think probably Carolyn, or does Brianna, do you know the answer to that question?
Yeah, it used to be a $25 fee for each crop certificate that's carried over. I don't know if that's changed for this year though.
So that's correct though. Like there's no fee to have your production for the current year listed, just carryover.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Lori, I have a question on some of those searches that you did. There were little symbols behind the varieties.
Oh, yes, that's the symbols for, you know, whether it's PBR protected, all the same symbols that we have in our book. So there would be plant breeders' rights 78 or 91, or variety use agreement in effect. Variety may not be described in 2022. And that's at a different, that's the one thing that we just got this up like 2 days ago. So that's the one thing that we identified that isn't in here yet. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, I was just making people aware that that's part of your the search results.
Yeah, and there was like footnotes at the bottom. There was info. A lot of those things would, when there's little icons in our seed guide that apply to things in the tables, they will also show up when you do a search in here.
It's very good.
Maybe I'll go back to another one, go back to that wheat one and see. I'll just pick the same one that we had before. Okay, then we ran a report. So yeah, these are the symbols that Jennifer was talking about. And there's other footnotes that are up here that relate to, like number 2 is resistance ratings, and it describes what they are. Then there's this bar slides so you can see more of the table so that you see the rest of the criteria. And we've only searched on what we felt were the top criteria that people would look for. But even when they generate a report, you're still going to get the full data that is in the seed guide.
Okay, Michelle's asking in the Q&A when this will be available live for.
Well, we're hoping within a couple weeks, but we have to go through it now and ground test it all. When we were going through it the other day, we're still getting some null results. So we've still got some fine tuning to do. And even when we're looking for, okay, so there's no growers there. Bad one to pick. My example was AAC magnet. So things like here, we don't have a link, or there's other times that we don't have a seed name. So there's a lot of little things yet that we need to do. So we're hoping over the next couple of weeks, we'll get the majority of them ironed out.
A suggestion from Wanda to have the headings freeze so you can scroll down and follow easier.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. I'll write that down. Yeah, we're going to do some ground proofing of it with our board. Then we might also reach out to a few growers to give it a try and come back to us with some feedback. But we're pretty excited at the overall concept and how we think it's going to work. So, and again, we'd like to thank the Canadian Agricultural Partnership for providing a huge chunk of the funding to get this project up and running. So have all the questions been answered?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any more come across besides a big
Oh.
bouquet of roses.
I
So-
see two hands up.
Oh, sorry.
No, they just came up. And let's see, we have Daniel and Angela Moj and Cheryl Coke. So Daniel, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see an opportunity here. I like your Saskatchewan side. Is there a way, or are Alberta growers allowed to go onto the Saskatchewan seed guide and say it comes from Alberta? Or is that a conflict of interest? Or I can see something for growers, especially in Eastern Alberta, or even here in the Peace where you have the zero-free stuff, another market that you can do it in Saskatchewan. I like your electronic guide. I really like that.
Daniel, there is a national guide put out by the CSGA where you can source seed across the country. I don't know whether you're aware of that, but it doesn't have the same mapping systems and details that this one does that Lori just showed us.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. Sorry.
No, I can, it's seedlocator.net is the web page. I'll put it in the chat for everyone.
Your comment is good, Daniel. I mean, I guess it depends on, if there's any way to coordinate with other provinces, I think is maybe what you're also asking. That would include a very complex integration. The trials are done differently in each of the provinces, and how we handle the data is done differently. And then how the seed growers' names and all their information is communicated. I don't know if you were going that far or not, but that's just a general comment.
I'm just kind of looking as a sales point of view. It's another sales that, hey, across the border, 10 miles across the border, we have this available. And they happen to look on the Saskatchewan site and they say, yeah, there is some across the border. I didn't realize there was a national seed net thing there, but that was just my thought.
Okay, thanks.
And vice versa. That means if Saskatchewan, I don't think Alberta has one electronic, but if vice versa, it helps everybody.
Yep. Thanks, Daniel.
Yeah. Great.
Cheryl? Just remember to unmute yourself, Cheryl.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh, yep.
Yeah, it's actually Cam Seidel, just as a follow-up to my question. I'm just wondering, especially for growers themselves, I know when they're trying to search stock seed, and often we have carryover and it might be 4 or 5 years old and still good. In the seed guide, would it be possible just to put an asterisk beside the pedigree that you have carryover? Right now you do have a 2 designated, and I notice only a few growers have used it, and I wasn't aware of how to do it. But if you had 4 different pedigrees, it wouldn't actually tell you which one you had carryover of. Whereas if there was, say, an asterisk beside the R, the F, or the C, then the growers would be able to source it. Because I know we get calls, people don't even realize we've got stock seed that we've carried over because it doesn't show us for a couple of years. Just a suggestion for growers especially, I think that would help quite a bit.
Okay.
So I just kind of wanted to throw that out. And also, you say you just contact the Sask seed growers to let them know you have carryover. Is that the way to go about it right now?
Sorry, go ahead. Somebody was going to speak.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I believe you can log into your members only area on the CSGA website and sign up your carryover production there.
Okay. And then that would show the pedigree that we have carryover. It would only show that we have carryover of that variety, correct?
We're actually gone through the steps. So that's a good question, Daniel. I don't know, maybe Brianna.
Well, I see here on the, I'm just looking at our website and it does say the class. So I would assume that it would probably, you could probably say the class for the carryover as well. But yeah, it indicates the variety and what classes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thanks a lot. I think that answers my question.
All right, thanks, Cam. Yeah, Michelle, we caught the typo. We're still going the way, like I said, we just got a couple days ago, so we're just starting to go through everything now with a fine tooth comb. So there's lots of things that we're going to no doubt catch over the next while. Oh, somebody else. Oh, okay. Any other questions about any of the presentations? Okay, again, we want to thank Bayer Seed Growth for sponsoring this webinar today. We really appreciate the support. And just to let you know that our next one is 2 weeks from today, and that's 9 a.m. Saskatchewan time. I'm gonna have to change the invites that we've sent out already. So the presentation, the next one is going to be an update from Lauren Hadley about variety use agreements. And then we're gonna have a presentation from Saskatchewan Crop Insurance about some of the programs that what their programs are. And over the last couple of years, we've been talking to them about loss of germination and vigor during storage. So they'll have, I know that they're starting to look at that, so they'll give us an update on what those kind of discussions are. Again, we want to thank Bayer Seed Growth and thanks Scott for your presentation. We want to thank also all the speakers again today. Really appreciate the time that you've committed to us today. And thanks to everybody who's attended. We want to thank our sponsors, Bayer Seed Growth, Discovery Seed Labs, Westland Insurance Group, CCAN, Syngenta, FP Genetics, Lewis M. Carter Manufacturing, SGS Canada, Nextseed, Crop Life Canada, and Cantera Seeds. And as we've mentioned before, this was a joint partnership between Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta seed growers. If you've got any questions about any of this stuff, or you've got some feedback, always willing to hear it. As I mentioned before, this has been recorded and it will be put on our website probably within the next week. And the presentations are, if you only want one specific presentation, we could send that to you as well after getting approval from the presenters. So I think that's it. Is there anything else, Jennifer, that you can think of before we sign off?
No, other than I have to give Lori a lot of credit for this meeting today. She's worked very hard to pull it all together. So thank you, Lori.
Well, you're welcome. Oh, sorry.
Very good job to the organizers. Very informative. I found it very informative myself to help me out quite a bit also. Thank you very much, Yusri.
Well, thanks, Daniel. All right, thanks again to all of our presenters, as well as the CFIA and CSGA people that were on hand to help us to answer any questions. And that's it for today. Thank you again so much for your participation. Okay, thanks to all of you presenters. Didn't have a chance to talk to you after the fact, but yeah, I think the meeting is completed now. Thank you. Jennifer, do you want to stay on for a bit?
Yeah, I sure can.
Thanks. kind of reading through the rest. I'm hoping that we covered all the questions. Looks like we did.
Yeah, I think so.
Mhm.
I hope so. Gosh.
Okay, so. Linnell, I see you're still on? Do you have anything that you want to add to how you thought this morning went? Oh, I think you're muted. Oh, maybe she's walked away. Oh, well. Okay, well, there, got everybody's off now, so I get some good comments back from Kathy and from Wanda, so that's nice. It's great to have Lionel or Daniel, really like the process. I'm on my laptop over here, so I'm looking over here now.
Yeah, Daniel, there were really great questions asked by the participants. I'm very pleased with this session too.
Yeah. I was hoping that I have to say I'm a little disappointed with Ward's presentation. I was hoping that, because we kind of covered, they didn't quite cover the same thing, but yeah, I think there was other questions that I know my guys were hoping that were going to get answered. And I prodded them all on my text and say, ask, give a quick tip, like give us a tip, ask a question, like, because they're the ones that set up the questions. So yeah, but anyways, you're right. I think it seemed to go well. And Daniel, I mean, he's been on more than one of them. Like he's been on quite a few of them. So clearly he sees value in them.
Mm-hmm. No, that's
So
great.
that's good.
I thought Ward did great. I thought both of the like Alan and Ward, they both showed a picture of a different piece of the puzzle, right? And
yeah, true. Yeah, okay, good. I guess I'm thinking more about what was in those line of questions, but I'm glad to hear you say that, because I just get so focused on this was the question.
Didn't follow your form. That's problem, right?
Yeah. But that's why I had Alyssa, because the question specifically from our board was, what do you do to guarantee the purity of what you bring onto your farm? Because that was a big question, and thankful. So I told Alyssa, like, add this. Oh, I should stop the recording.
I still see 7